This is section 1.4, solving absolute value functions, day 1. So we've been talking about how to solve equations so far, and now we're just going to make it a little bit more difficult by throwing in some absolute values. So remember, just as a reminder, the absolute value tells us how far away from 0 something is. So the absolute value of 5 is going to be 5. The absolute value of negative 9 is going to be 9. So what if I told you that the absolute value of x was equal to 10? Well, that meant that x was 10 away from 0, which gives us two options. That gives us x equals 10 or x equals negative 10. So that's the basic idea, but we're going to make it a little bit more complicated. So, steps for solving an absolute value equation. So we want to get the absolute value on a side by itself. So that means if you have like the absolute value of x plus 3, and then outside you have minus 5 equals 10, we're going to have to add 5 to both sides to get that absolute value by itself. Once you do that, you're going to write two related linear equations, and I'll show you what that means later. It kind of goes back to when we had the x equals 10 and x equals negative 10. And then we're going to solve both equations, and then we're going to plug our answers back into the original to check to make sure our answer actually works. So let's do some examples to see how this actually is going to go. So first one, the absolute value of x minus 4 equals 6. So we have the absolute value by itself. So step 1 is already done. So I'm going to take what's inside the absolute value, get rid of the absolute value, and write that twice. That's going to be the start of our two equations. All right, because I know that what's inside the absolute value has to be 6 away from 0, that means it could equal 6, but it could also equal negative 6. So there are two equations. We have the positive version and the negative version. So we are going to solve both equations. So I'm going to add 4 to the first set for the first equation, add to both sides to get x equals 10. Same thing on the second side, or the second equation actually, and to get x equals negative 2. Just to make sure that we did everything right, let's plug it back into the original. So if I plug back in here, 10 minus 4 is 6. The absolute value of 6 is 6, so this one worked. Same thing with the other one. Take negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. Absolute value is 6, which is equal to 6, so we know that one worked as well. All right, let's take it up a step and make it just a little bit harder. Absolute value of 3x plus 1 equals negative 5. So our absolute value is by itself, which is a good sign, so let's write that what's inside twice. Alright, I'm going to rewrite the first one exactly the way it was, equals negative 5, and then I'm going to change the sign for the second one and solve. So minus 1, 3x equals negative 6, divide by 3, get x equals negative 2. Solve the second one, 3x equals 4, divide by 3, x equals 4 thirds. Let's go back and check and see if that works. So plugging back in up here, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. The absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. So we get positive 5 equals negative 5. That does not work, so this can't be an answer. Looking at the next one, 3 times 4 thirds is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Absolute value of 5 is 5. And again, we get that 5 is not equal to negative 5. So let's think about what's wrong in this picture. When we think about absolute value, we're talking about distance away from 0, and we think of distance as positive. So it's actually not possible to have an absolute value equal to this negative number. So I could have looked at this right away and said, oh, absolute value equal to a negative. That's absolutely no solution. Or you can solve it like we did and get to the same conclusion, but if you can pick that up right away, go for it, don't show any work, and you just know that that's no solution. All right, moving to our last example once I get everything erased. All right. So now we have the absolute value of 3x plus 9 minus 10 equals negative 4. This one's different from the first two in that we have that minus 10. So we need to get the absolute value by itself. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides. The absolute value of 3x plus 9 is now equal to 6, which is a positive number, so we're good to go. I'm going to write it twice. 3x plus 9, 3x plus 9, and it's going to be 6 and negative 6. So the positive and the negative version, and just solve the equation. So subtract 9 from both sides. 3x equals negative 3 divided by 3. Get x equals negative 1. Same on the other equation. 3x equals negative 15 divided by 3. And we get x equals negative 5. Let's go back and check our work. Make sure you plug into the original. Don't plug into the one where we got the absolute value of 3x plus 9 equals 6, just because it's very possible that we made a mistake going from the original. So always go back to the original. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Negative 3 plus 9 is 6. Absolute value of 6 is 6. 6 minus 10 is negative 4, which is indeed equal to negative 4, so that one worked. Same thing with negative 5. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Negative 15 plus 9 is negative 6. Absolute value gives us 6. 6 minus 10 is negative 4, so this one works as well. So as long as you stick to the process, you should be able to get through these just like you have been so far.